What up, Fiction Fam? Welcome to Down to Read. My name is Steven, and we thought while we're in the early stages of 2026, it'd be good to go over the 10 books that I want to read this year from 10 different genres. Now, we have been pretty liberal with some of the genres and perhaps shoehorn some of them a wee bit, but the aim was to get a good variety of books to read this year to be able to review for you all. Now, in no particular order, let's get into the books from the definitely different respective genres. Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. I'm not even sure how I came across this one, because at the time of recording, it hasn't been released yet. Maybe I entered a door between worlds. Turns out in this video we will shoehorn segues and genres. The basic setup for this horror novel is a college kid in the year 2026 and a samurai in the year 1877 discover a door between their worlds in the house behind the sword ferns. And something is hiding behind the house. The tagline for this book is, "One of these people is a ghost, and one of these stories is a lie." Say no more. I'm in. Malazan! Or more specifically, Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson, which is book 1 of the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. In 2026, I continue my journey after picking up books 6 to 9 of this series from a book sale last year. In fact, you can see the hunt at that book sale in the video up here. The objective of this journey I'm on is to successfully thrift all 10 books from this series, which has actually been pretty fun so far. Though the only one I've been able to pick up since the initial score has been this one, book 5. So I'm still missing books 1 to 4 and book 10. We're coming to find you. In the first book of this epic fantasy series, Gardens of the Moon, the Malazan Empire, ruled by Empress Lysine, have dominated much of the intercontinental region where this book is set. Darujhistan, last of the free cities on the continent of Genus Bacchus, is holding out against the Malazan Empire, and as you can imagine, Empress Lysine isn't that stoked about this. This first book in the series tells of the Malazan Empire's campaign to conquer Darujhistan. I am really keen to start the series, but as a pact to myself, I will not start the series until I've successfully thrifted all 10 books. Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurdy. This one has a lot of love on Bookstagram and BookTube, and probably rightly so, as it was a Pulitzer Prize winner. Westerns are not usually a genre that would appeal to me, and nor does the premise of this book on paper. Set in the Old West, Lonesome Dove tells the story of retired rangers driving a cattle herd from Texas to Montana. I have not heard anyone say a bad word about this book, but what's really piqued my interest is how developed the characters apparently are, such that they feel like real people. So giddy up, cowboy. I'm in.
Giddy up.
Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger. Another award winner, this time the Edgar Award. I was actually lucky enough to be gifted a copy of this book for Christmas, and if you'd like to see the rest of my Christmas book haul, check this out. Set in Minnesota in the summer of 1961, Frank Drum has the same priorities as most teenage boys do, until tragedy strikes. Frank has to grow up quick to deal with the many forms of death that he unfortunately encounters. I'm genuinely interested in this one, because even though I didn't grow up in Minnesota in the 60s, I'm not quite that old and not American, I have this almost false nostalgia for that setting, perhaps due to all the media that I've consumed over the years. On top of that, I'm intrigued that the story is told by Frank 40 years later, recalling the events of that fateful summer. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead is another award winner.
Another one.
This time, it was the Nobel Prize of Literature. The title alone had me raising my eyebrows with interest for this one. Originally published in Polish, this book tells the story of a former teacher, now retiree, Janine Dojeszko. Janine lives in a rural Polish town and is thought by others to be a crazy old recluse. She spends her time looking after the summer homes of her neighbors and studying astrology. But when her neighbor is found dead and other dead bodies begin to turn up, Janine tries to help the investigation, as she's really convinced she can help find who did this. But no one's going to listen to the crazy old lady. I've heard this has gorgeous descriptions of the Polish countryside, which sounds really nice, even if it does come with the occasional dead body. Okay, I think we're done with the award-winning books for a bit at least, but to be honest, I might enjoy the books that haven't won awards more than those that have on this list. Because this book, for example, yeah, it feels like my type of jam. Actually, you know what I'm thinking might be a bit of fun? I don't know, maybe it'll become a bit of a mess, but if at the end of this video, I rank the books from those I think I'm going to enjoy the most to those I think I'll enjoy the least. Now, obviously, I think I'll enjoy all of these books. These are the books that I most want to read this year, but it'll be fun at the end of the year to see how my predictions compare to the books I actually enjoyed the most. Anyway, let's deal with that later in the video. Let's focus on this book here. Now, I'm a sucker for found footage films. I'm talking Cloverfield, Creep, Wreck. And to a lesser extent, the American remake, Quarantine. But the closest I've read to a found footage book to date is The House of Leaves. Another thing I enjoy reading every now and then, just to mix it up, is a collection of short stories. They're snappy, get to the point, and then they're done. So when I heard about this anthology, which is a collection of 18 found footage horror stories, I had to find a way to get on the list. Even if it was shoehorned a bit, and I'm not even sorry about it. Watership Down by Richard Adams. I picked up this pretty weathered version of the book at the same secondhand book sale that I linked earlier in this video. The tale of a group of rabbits who are trying to escape the destruction being caused by humans to get to a new safe place, the hill of Watership Down. I think this has a real chance of being the first story involving woodland creatures and the English countryside to make me tear up, since the animals of Farthing Wood. A Little Hatred, Book 1 of the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. First it was horror, now I found a way to shoehorn another fantasy book into this list. I feel like the tones of this series are so different to Malazan that we good. I really enjoyed the First Law trilogy that I read last year, and I'm looking forward to, in 2026, working my way through the standalones, Best Served Code, Heroes, Red Country, and then finally into this trilogy, The Age of Madness, starting with A Little Hatred. This is set years after the First Law trilogy, but I understand there are crossover characters and settings from the other books. I am deliberately trying to avoid learning too much about the Age of Madness trilogy though, as it could spoil some of the other books I mentioned I haven't read yet. What I do know is at this point in the story, the Industrial Revolution has commenced, and humans are using machinery to make things easier. But the Age of Magic will not go silently into the night. Like the First Law trilogy, I'm expecting strong character development with some morally grey characters, some good dark humor, and some immersive battle scenes that are probably pretty bloody. Smoke City by Keith Russon. Okay, I'll level with you on this one. This one is probably the most up for debate as to whether or not it fits into this genre. But let me tell you what it's about, and then let's see if we agree. Marvin Dietz has some problems. Some of them aren't entirely of his doing, like his criminal landlord who's trying to strong-arm him out of his storefront. But some of them kind of are, like the heartbreak he puts himself through every week when he volunteers at the children's hospital. Maybe not sounding too historical fiction so far, but what if I told you another one of his problems is that he is the reincarnation of Geoffrey Tharage, the executioner who lit Joan d'Arc's pyre on fire in 1431. Since lighting Joan d'Arc's pyre on fire, he's been reincarnated again and again and again. And Marvin, in our present day, has all the horrifying memories from all these previous lives. When Marvin sees someone on a TV show in LA who claims to be Joan, he heads to Los Angeles to try and seek forgiveness and escape this cycle of reincarnation. So what do we think? Historical fiction? I'm going to say yes. Partly because Goodreads has historical fiction listed as a genre for this book, and partially because I want to read it. There Is No Anti-Memetics Division by QNTM. At first I was quite intrigued by the anonymous pen name of the author, but then Wiki told me the author's name is Sam Hughes. But luckily the tagline for this book is also really intriguing. Welcome to the Anti-Memetics Division. No, this is not your first day. In this book we follow Marie Wheeler, who is the director of the titular Anti-Memetic Division. In the world of this book, there are these things called unknowns, which can delete the memories of themselves from anyone who's seen them, which Marie's Anti-Memetics Division are trying to combat. But it's pretty hard to win a war against something when you can't even know that you are at war. I'm going to be honest, that all sounds pretty confusing, but I'm keen to see if I'm clever enough to be able to follow this book. Now, I'm pretty confident I'll be able to read all these books this year, even though I need to source copies for most of them. So as I promised earlier in this video, let me now rank them from the books I think I'm going to enjoy the least, the ones I think I'm going to enjoy the most from this list, and then at the end of the year we can check back in to see if my predictions were correct. Now, just before we get to this list, again, I think I'm going to enjoy all these books. Again, that's the point of this video. It's just which ones do I think I'm going to really enjoy and which ones will just be pretty good. Now at number 10, so the book I think I'm going to enjoy the least is Ordinary Grace by Kent Kruger. I'm just worried this one might be a little bit too slow for me. At 9, Lonesome Dove. Westerns just generally aren't my thing. Number 8, Found. This one sounds pretty fun, but with 18 different authors, it's bound to be a bit hit and miss. 7, There Is No Anti-Memetics Division. I'm not sure I'm going to be clever enough to follow this one properly. 6, Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. I just don't really know what to expect with this one. It could be a little bit too quirky. 5, Gardens of the Moon. By all accounts, this is a great fantasy series, but as book 1 in the series, it may take a little while to get going. 4, Watership Down. I'm prepared to tear up over some rabbits. 3, Smoke City. Come on. How fun does that premise sound for a book that is definitely historical fiction? 2, Japanese Gothic. This book isn't even out yet, so maybe I should temper my expectations till I've read some more reviews, but it sounds like it's going to be right up my alley. And at number 1, so the book I think I'm going to enjoy the most in 2026 is A Little Hatred. I thought all of the First Law trilogy books were 4 to 4.5 star reads, so I'm expecting this one to be even better and probably achieve that 5-star status. That's it. Those are the 10 books that I want to read from 10 different genres. Feel free to challenge that in the comments if you want, but I'm standing by it that I want to read this year in 2026. Be sure to like if you want to see more content like this one, subscribe if you'd like to see the review videos when I eventually get around to reading these books, and as always, thank you for watching. Zhoosh. It's definitely historical fiction, mate. Do you know who Joan Dark is? Come on.